Undertale was one of the most formative games of my childhood. I mean, I was 12 when it came out. How could it not have been? And now, almost a decade later, and 2 chapters of Delta and it still happens to linger in my brain. And Kingdom Hearts was a formative game for my brother and my sister, but I was a little late to the party. I wasn't even born yet when the first one came out, and the only thing I did as a 10-year-old with the HD collections was watch Shion die, which is why I cry when I hear Dearly Beloved to this day.
Shion! Who else will I have ice cream with?
But hey, I played it as a teenager, and now it's one of my favorite game series of all time. But I don't think these two hyperfixations could ever cross paths. No. Leave me alone! But hey, what worlds would they even go to? So yeah, that's the idea. Undertale like Kingdom Hearts. Underhearts, if you would. I'm basically going to go over what I do for this hypothetical fan game, I guess. And yeah, it'd be a fan game. Delta Traveler is actually a really good template for what I'd want. Frisk, Susie, and Ralsei hopping through different game worlds, fighting Heartless, and doing complicated plot stuff. And, you know, it's not like it's the first time they've crossed over. Super Smash Bros. Is fucking nuts. And this isn't like a devlog or a pitch or anything. If someone wants to make it, then yeah, go nuts, but I'm not going to. But yeah, let's hop right into it, I suppose. Alright, boots on the ground stuff first. It'd be a 3D action RPG platformer like the first Kingdom Hearts, but taking a lot of easier movement capabilities from games like Cage 2 and 3. You'd be playing as Frisk, sporting this new design, also inspired by Kingdom Hearts. Your 2 companions would be Susie and Ralsei, also sporting new designs. The combat would most closely reflect Cage 2, dedicated ground, aerial, and magic combos. I'm also going to say we grab the character change mechanic from the Final Fantasy VII Remake because I love that so much. It allows you to play as Susie and Ralsei during combat as well, who have their own sets of dedicated combos. Susie's more of a ground fighter, and Ralsei will basically always be in the air. Yeah, additional party members would have their own sets of combos and abilities and such too, I think. Does that balloon the scope of the game outside reasonable proportion? Yes, and I do not care. You can only keep 3 party members in your party at any given time, besides Frisk, so up to 4. Here's a list of all the magic spells your main characters have. I am not going to read all that aloud, Jesus. Pause if you want to, though. As we talk about other party members, I'll go ahead and list their magic out here too, but I'm not going to do like a huge deep dive into all of the combat. Oh. Frisk also has a unique drive form that can be accessed when under duress of any kind, health being in the red, magic glow, that allows Kara to take control. If you don't know what's up with that, then okay, fine, I'll explain. So in Undertale, the first fallen human's true name is Kara, and no, they're not evil or a villain or whatever the fuck, but they are within Frisk and are probably the one who narrates the entire game, and your influence as the player who controls Frisk's actions affect how they view the world. They're also kind of a metaphor for the player, but they aren't the player, and it's a whole twisted up ball of yarn of a thing, but there you go, that's Kara. But to actually explain what the hell's going on here, we've got to go over the worlds we've got. So let's do that. This one's kind of here out of obligation. It's the world that gets destroyed. It'd be a chunk of hometown, slightly modeled after Deltarune's hometown, but absolutely changed in some key ways. A portion of Mount Ebott, including the cave where Frisk and Kara fell down, and Asgore's throne room. It's Traverse Town from Kingdom Hearts. The Disney stuff is swapped out with other various gaming stuff, like the Lady and the Tramp plaque being replaced with Banjo-Kazooie, just as an example. This is also where you'd unlock your party members Susie and Ralsei, and the Train of Thought! How you travel between worlds. It's a magic train that allows you to fly. Mario RPG? Out of all Mario games? Why? Well, you see, it's because it's my fake video game. Who cares? Nah, in reality, it's because this game is so whimsical, and it's designed as a mechanical in-between of Mario and Final Fantasy. Much like Kingdom Hearts is a thematic in-between of Disney and Final Fantasy, it works very well as our first real world in our wacky fan game. Your party members consist of Mario, Geno, and Mallow, the main man, and 2 unique characters from Mario RPG. You wouldn't be able to explore the entire map, but you'd have access to Mario's Pad, the Mushroom Kingdom with a room or 2 for Peach's Castle, Rose Town, and the Forest Grove, Star Hill, and Nimbus Land. No castle, the final boss would probably just be in Nimbus Land, but it would include a bunch of unique bosses from the game, including Bowser. You'd help the Mario crew on your first fight against him, and then Krocko, because fuck this guy. You'd also probably fight a dual set of like Heartless Monarchs. Huh? Pokemon Stadium? Like from the hit N64 game Pokemon Stadium? Yes. Look, I want Pokemon in the game, but I don't want to like make it a whole thing. And Pokemon Stadium is a very nostalgic game for me, so I figured a natural way to make it work would be to make Pokemon a full minigame world. You'd have 1 or 2 traversable rooms, but the majority of the stuff is things like helping Clefairies in the hospital, singing with Jigglypuff, or guiding Corviknights making deliveries, stuff like that. I know we just did a weird world, but I got another one here. There would be exactly 1 location explorable in Hollow Nest, the Coliseum of Fools. This would be a gauntlet of boss fights featuring some of Hollow Knight's greatest hits, but not, all of them. Lots of stuff here, and there's a very small story happening about this world teetering on the edge of darkness, which in Hollow Knight's case would be void. It's a whole thing. And, it's being overwhelmed by this poison light. I think it'd be a really cool reflection of, what's happening in the plot. We won't be able to complete the world on this first visit, so we'll loop back to it later. However, there's one more thing here. Just outside the Coliseum, past where you park the train, there is a sarcophagus nestled in a wall. After completing a cup or 2, you gain a key, and with this key, you unlock the sarcophagus and unleash the Godseeker. After Frisk unlocks its mind with their Keyblade, you dive inside and enter Godhome. Here you get a huge area featuring statues of quote-unquote gods from across the many worlds you visit. You unlock cups as you progress through the worlds though. Right now we have the Pantheon of the Stars featuring the Mario crew. We'll be coming back to this later too. Hey, if Delta Traveler can feature the creators on Undertale AU, then I can too! This world would also be a very good place for Frisk to reflect on their past and on their actions and attitude towards Kara. They sort of have an antagonistic relationship despite sharing a body, but this world also features a Kara, one who's done bad things in their past and who's trying to atone for what they've done. It also features an enigmatic OC named Couture, who takes the place of Sans. Wait, where are you going? I'm not done yet! I haven't even told you about the edgy albino Emernos people! His name is Anarchy! I guess I'll never find out about Royal Guard Captain Monster Kid. Anyway, this world wouldn't really make for world-ending stakes, taking place before the story proper, so I think a smaller story dealing with some interpersonal dynamics between the characters would fit best. Bosses would probably be Kara, the Inks, Couture, and a dual set of Heartless bosses. I'm thinking one hangs back and provides support for the more energetic and crazy second one, and then once you take out the crazy one, the lethargic one gets off his ass and starts wrecking shit. After each of their boss fights, you get Kara and Couture party members. For beating this world, you unlock the Pantheon of the Soul. Island is one of the most unique and fun locations in the Zelda series, and even though it's a dream, it makes for one hell of a location. It also makes a great moral dilemma that is featured in Deltarune but isn't in Undertale: the destruction of a world that's a dream for the people outside that are real. It also provides me ample opportunity to rewrite this ending to be entirely less sad. Marin deserves better. Party would just include Link and no one else, but he'd have a lot of variation to make up for it. Areas would be the beach, Mabe Village with a little forest segment, the main prairie, probably best to simplify that down just a little bit, Conolit Castle with a little cemetery side area, Eagle Tower, and the final boss area inside the egg. Bosses here would be Goma, the Grim Creeper, that's real, the Evil Eagle, and the Shadow Nightmares. You could recontextualize the Shadow Nightmares as Heartless, actually, that could be cool. And, wait, Undyne? We'll get to the how later, but for now, Undyne, at the end of the world, when it's dissolving away, desperately tries to stop our heroes from causing its end. This ends in an all-out brawl as the world sadly dissolves away and everyone is separated as Koholint Island disappears. You unlock the Pantheon of the Dream. It's the Undertale yellow game. It's Undertale, but it's yellow. Oh my god! Basically, it's the dunes area of Undertale Yellow. The desert, the little town, Saroba's house, Starlow's farm, and the Wild East proper. Party members are Starlow after a Furious 5 boss battle, and Saroba. I know Starlow is never a party member in UTY, but I don't care. I'm also thinking this world also exists a bit before the events of the game, maybe by like a year or so. Kind of like Double Scramble a few minutes ago. It also makes for a tragic sequel world in the hypothetical or Under Hearts 2, where Shujin and Kaneko, who would be supporting characters here, are gone and you get a Clover party member, but shh. Bosses include Starlow, Axis, and a robotic, erratic Heartless. And for this one, you unlock the Pantheon of the East. This place has a fucking name? Sorry. The Valley of Lander is Shovel Knight, one of my favorite games of all time, ever. Legitimately, it's in my top 10, maybe top 5, but it's competing with a lot. Anyway, the map would consist of a short plains area, the village, the Lich Yard, the Tropal Pond, Pridemore Keep, the Exploratorium, and the Tower of Fate. I know that sounds like a lot, but this would be the last world before we get back to the original stuff, and a lot of sections would be truncated for simplicity's sake. Maybe like 1 or 2 rooms per area. You could include the big iconic stuff, but, you know, don't include everything. Party members would be Shovel Knight, obviously, with a Shield Knight party member once you beat the world. Bosses include Spectre Knight, King Knight, Plague Knight, Black Knight, the Enchantress, and a special Enchantress Heartless. And you'll unlock the Pantheon of the Valley. The world's heart is a neon-tinged, darkness-filled dungeon that the main villain has corrupted into a base of operations for the bad guys. This is the only image I have because it's a fully original world, so, sorry. As you reach the midpoint of the world, you're stuck with a battle against Flowey, and as you two whittle each other down, Frisk begins to get small flashes of life between Karen and Azrael, followed by flashes of life between Frisk and Flowey. Before the final blow is about to land, Flowey morphs, changes into a familiar goat-like form. Azrael, in a new outfit with a new Keyblade, counters Frisk's attack and plunges his Keyblade into their chest. The light shines from their chest, and we enter back dive into the heart. But, you know, that's kind of stepping on the toes of the story. So before we loop back around to this, let's go ahead and cover the bullet points of the overarching story. At the midpoint, you'll unlock the Pantheon of the Lost and the Pantheon of Hollow Nest. Before we actually do the story, let's go ahead and hit up the world mechanics and the characters, because it's a lot and I need to explain some things. So, darkness is a strong force that, when harnessed through determination of a light world individual, can create a dark fountain in a dark world. It can also be used to summon and/or control Heartless, as long as the character has enough darkness in their soul. When too many dark fountains are created, a roaring occurs, which is where a world falls to darkness and falls into the great realm of darkness, which is where Kingdom Hearts usually lies when it's not being summoned by a Keyblade or Keyblade or whatever the fuck. A roaring can also happen by infecting the soul of any given world of darkness, though this can generally only be accessed with a Keyblade. A Heartless is a lost soul of an individual who has lost themselves to darkness. They target Lightners and the soul of the world, aiming to create more Heartless and cause more roarings. If destroyed with a Keyblade, its soul returns to its body. When a Heartless is created out of an individual with a lot of determination, a Nobody is created. That's not really going to come up in this particular part, so I'm going to breeze past them. Determination is a substance that exists in every human soul, allowing it to persist after a human's body is destroyed. When an individual has a large amount of determination, they unlock this larger list of powers, which is save points, magical healing, stat boosting, death refusal, magic. You can't forget literally going Super Saiyan on 9. Oh, what the fuck? When a monster absorbs a human soul or a human absorbs a monster soul, they gain strength or something. It's pretty vague. A Keyblade is a weapon forged in the long and storied history that I cannot be fucking bothered to research. Keyblades choose their wielders, unlock doors, and harness magic. That's genuinely all you need to know. So the rough plot is pretty similar to Kingdom Hearts proper with a handful of twists, namely with the characters, which, if you didn't know, is the real appeal of Kingdom Hearts. You can blab all you want about pure darknesses, or Chi-Blades, or Keyblades, or whatever the fuck, or people mentioning the door to darkness, but the real appeal is Sora, Riku, Kairi, Sora, Axel, Sora, Aqua, Terra, Sora, Mickey the Goddamn Mouse, and Sora. Let's go ahead and give a brief rundown of all our main characters before we hop into the story proper. Frisk is a young, cheerful kid from Ebot City. They're hung up on their past adventure in the underground, resetting the timeline and everything. They enjoy their life on the surface, but do believe there's more for them out there. They want that adventure, but nowadays they do care about their friends more. They're unaware that they were or are currently being controlled by a player entity, or why they can still save outside of their own world. Players is a whole different segment of discussion that I don't have time to get into. But yeah, they exist. Frisk is a really tricky character to get right. I went ahead and decided to give them the passive resetting the timeline over and over again to provide a connection with another character down the line and a conflict with a character coming up. It just makes sense to me. Also, I think it'd be fun to change certain things in the beginning world and in Frisk's dialogue based on a questionnaire in the beginning tutorial, dive into the heart sequence. I think it would make it for interesting changes, like you know, where did you live? I wanted to stay with Toriel, or I had places to go, you know, stuff like that. Flowey, a small golden flower that hides the consciousness of Azrael Dreamer. Unbeknownst to him, a new soul has been burgeoning in his body. Despite his brief escapade as a god and his new freedom in the underground, he craves a soul. And unfortunately, he still craves new experiences. So when their world falls to darkness and he's approached by a mysterious being shrouded in darkness, promising everything he's ever desired, how could he refuse? I bet you didn't expect Flowey to be the Riku stand-in, huh? Well, I didn't either until I was writing everything down. Kara, a soul trapped and tied to Frisk's own. Due to being wrongfully blamed for the player's actions during the genocide route, again, very complicated, not going to get into it, but they've been locked in a corner of Frisk's soul ever since their final reset. They still narrate Frisk's actions, but hardly ever get a response. Kara is interesting. A scapegoat for the player, someone that you can pin your own actions on, even despite their own words talking directly to you. But Frisk was never aware of the player, so Kara's trapped. Now they're a refugee in someone else's body. What a wretched existence. Susie. Susie is a mean girl with a heart of gold and a bad axe that shreds creatures in the dark, except Ralsei. All she wants is to see Chris again. She'd even sacrifice the world if it meant saving her friends if push came to shove. Ralsei, a prince from the dark who's begun to be able to maintain his form in the light world due to the overwhelming darkness beginning to take over. He wants to save the world and find Chris, even if he knows that doing both might be impossible. Chris. After the roaring took hold of their world, Chris's determination was enough to save their life, but it wasn't their life who they wanted to save. They would love to return home, but it might be impossible. Chris is a complicated character, especially where we're at right now in Deltarune. They clearly care about their friends to a dangerous and even self-destructive extent. So in this, they take on the role of King Mickey. They explore the realm of darkness, trying to help the worlds they fail to save. But first and foremost, they want to keep their friends safe. which I think would make for a great boss fight. Anyway, on to the actual story. During the beginning of the story, a town called Hometown is destroyed, Frisk gains the Keyblade, and they're whisked to Traverse Town to meet up with Susie and Rousey. Meanwhile, Flowey is torn from the earth and dragged to the world's heart. Flowey meets up with some of the villains in the Villain Council. Here's the roster for that, if anyone's interested. And Flowey takes a note to harness the darkness and successfully restores his old body. He stares at his hands for a moment before the darkness begins to melt off of him and he's left as a flower again. Now he's stuck with a choice: to help restore his world and remain a flower, or try and restore his body using these dark powers we see. Frisk hops between worlds for a while, and every once in a while we get a little glimpse of Flowey, watching from a distance. And then, on a return trip to Traverse Town, Flowey meets back up with our heroes, and confronts Frisk about replacing him and the rest of their friends. Frisk attempts to reassure him, but the darkness whispers in Flowey's ear, and he leaves in a cloud of darkness. Additionally, over the course of the game, Kara does still narrate everything Frisk does, as mentioned before. Frisk mostly ignores it, with the exception of when they need help in a fight. Rousey can sense the presence within Frisk and asks him about it somewhere in the earlier half of the game, probably a little bit before the Flowey disagreement from earlier. Frisk essentially explains that they blame Kara for most of the bad things they did in the underground, i.e. the resets and Juno runs and all that, and can't trust them with even a modicum of control of their body unless they're desperate. They're wrong, of course, but they'll figure that out later. They progress through the worlds, stealing the world's souls and doing cool stuff before they finally make it to the world's heart. They storm the castle of the hitherto unknown bad guy before they reach Flowey. It's a tense battle, but the first part is shockingly easy. Flowey goes down, but then darkness consumes him, and he transforms into Azrael once again. In one blow, Frisk is knocked into their own soul, and falls through a combination of their own memories and Kara's. It's a trippy, dreamlike sequence, before a pillar of darkness shoots up into the sky. The world collapses back together onto it, and we're left on Frisk's station of awakening. A Keyblade radiating with darkness is held in front of them, and they follow it up, only to see a non-binary individual in a black coat. Chris. Chris, an individual who has sacrificed their life to save their friends, who has been roaming the darkness and now tests Frisk on their resolve, to not only save the world, but to keep the people they love safe. It's a brutal fight, and not easily won. As a matter of fact, you can't win the first phase. Chris is just too strong, until a third Keyblade joins the clash. Kara joins the fight, and together, Kara and Frisk use their combined skills and a shit ton of reaction commands to finally take Chris down. It's still not an easy fight though, it's rough. Now beaten, Chris smiles, just a touch, for the first time since they've appeared on screen, and makes Frisk promise to take care of Susie and Rousey for them. Frisk agrees, and Chris is drawn back into a corridor of darkness. Frisk and Kara sit together and have a small discussion with each other in the center of their mind. They figure out it was neither of them responsible for the terrible things that happened to them, so who was?
It was you. It was you. You did it. The player. They did it. It was their fault.
Well, either way, they'd be sticking together from here on out. At this point, the player loses access to the Fallen Drive form, but gains a much nicer ability. The ability to freely swap between Kara and Frisk. Kara can be equipped with their own Keyblade, any out of your current selection. Their stats are different though, and Kara hits much harder than Frisk does, but has a bit less magic ability. And now, Kara and Frisk rejoin Susie and Rousey, now with a lot more confidence and teamwork in their group, storm the rest of the castle and meet Azrael at the top of the tower, but Vines had begun to run up his arm from his soul. After a quick debate about morality and why he's doing this and all that, Frisk and Kara alone fight Azrael. The vine arms spread and grow, and he finally collapses as his own vines begin to dig into the earth. After his defeat is obvious, we hear a snarling, evil voice come from behind him. See, I haven't talked about who the final boss is going to be here. I've decided only one character fits, a scientist whose experiments with darkness ended with them being destroyed and scatters. The main villain of this game is Alphys! Yo, it's Alphys! I put her in a tight suit and a couple of belts. She's cool now! Okay, look. I like Gaster. I like what other frameworks are doing with Gaster. Hell, I like what Deltarune seems to be doing with Gaster. But, like, I'm fucking sick of this dude. I've written and done enough stuff with him just to be sick of him. I don't want to write for Gaster. I've done my fucking time already. Good thing Kingdom Hearts has a million different ways for me to retcon this away if I really want to. Oh, and I've left a list of what I'm calling scientist reports in the description. You get them over the course of a couple boss fights, but I don't want to go over them here. It's a lot. Anyway, after Alphys takes out Azrael, not killing him, but taking him out of commission, she explains to our gang that the Door of Darkness is not to be wielded by those who covet the light, and dives into Angel's Heaven. Angel's Heaven is a hellish amalgamation of worlds that have fallen to darkness. It's where you revisit Frisk's home and many other worlds that have been destroyed. Frisk, Susie, and Rousey make their way to the end of Angel's Heaven and fight Alphys. It's a long, grueling, multi-phase fight, and at the end of it, Alphys opens the door to darkness and said darkness begins flooding out. It's too strong, and they can't take it before Frisk is dragged to their feet by Kara. The two try to lift the Keyblade into the air to aim, but Alphys being supercharged by the Door to Darkness is too strong. It's too powerful. And then a strong, purple hand joins theirs, followed by a soft, furry paw. The four together lift the Keyblade and aim its glowing point at Alphys. With one final fuck-off beam powered by their bond, Alphys is engulfed in light and is destroyed. The Door to Darkness, however, is still open, and still spewing darkness. The gang try to close as best they can before vines begin to wrap around it and Flowey pops up on the other side of the door. Frisk tries to reach him, but if they let go, the door begins to just slowly open again. Flowey assures Frisk that it'll be okay and that he needs to do this. So Frisk plants their feet, grits their teeth, and pushes the goddamn door closed. Leaping away from the door, they hesitate for only a moment and seal it closed. An explosion of darkness flails out first, destabilizing space and time, before an explosion of light blows away the gang from the door, and they find themselves waking up in a town called Hometown. Frisk is happy about this development at first, before they realize that none of their major friends are here. There's the smaller monsters hanging about, of course, but Toriel, Sans, Papyrus, even Undyne, they're all gone. They're dejected about this, but Rousey places a hand on their shoulder, reassuring them that they can still find them later. Susie doubles down on this before Kara gives them one last bit of reassurance. Frisk nods, grins, and they all board the train of thought, and so the adventure continues. Anyway, that's it for the story. Very KHE, I know, but you know, that's the concept. We've made it through all the big stuff. A couple minor things that we've got to touch on before we wrap up. Secret bosses. All KH games have them, and we're no exception. We've got Sephiroth in the Hollowness Final Cup, Anarchy through a portal in Traverse Town that teleports you to a farm in the middle of nowhere, and Kulix from Mario RPG. We'd also probably get a foreshadowing secret boss, but I have no idea what we'd be foreshadowing yet, so... Minigames. We've already covered Pokemon Stadium, but back in Traverse Town, we've got a minigame where you can rap against Friday Night Funkin's very own boyfriend. And Keyblades. We've got a bunch of those too. Tenacious Actor, Forget-Me-Not, Delta Dreamer, and Hyper Saber, the main Keyblades used by the individual characters. You can only use Tenacious Actor and Forget-Me-Not, but, you know. Then we have Starlit Vessel, Daydream, Steel Resolve, Empty Vessel, Backslash, and Gilded Deputy. You get these bad boys from beating each of their respective worlds. You can also unlock Determination, Level of Violence, and Heart's Honor, referring to Undertale, GG Underfell, and TS Underswap respectively, as a small nod to Delta Traverse specifically and these badass AUs in general. The Kingdom Key is unlockable for getting all the collectibles in the game. Homesick is unlocked after being the Masked Man, Inheritor is unlocked after beating Anarchy, and Hyper Saber is our ultimate Keyblade equivalent, which is unlocked after some level of bullshit, but is really strong. I've also designed these other Keyblades and want to show them off, but I don't ask me to come up with names for them. But hey, that should be it. Let me know what you thought, or if you like this sort of game pitch type of video. I really enjoyed making it, even if it was a lot, yeah. Special thanks to the Tired White Mages for giving me all the names of the Keyblades, and yeah, I think that's it. Thank you very much, and enjoy.